As a result of the seminar in Salford, Beth Johnson Foundation developed a bid to what was then the National Lottery for one of the last of the UK national bids, and actually put in a bid for funding for the Centre for Intergenerational Practice, which was to be a UK-wide organisation to develop intergenerational work across the UK, but in particular to support practitioners across the whole of UK and policymakers to see the relevance and the practice of intergenerational work as something which was relevant to their interests, what they were trying to achieve, so it could be infused into their work. The bid to the lottery was successful, and the Beth Johnson Foundation got funding. The other thing that happened, and I think it was perhaps because Beth Johnson was based in Stoke-on-Trent and not in London, it was very concerned not to be seen as an English organisation that did UK-wide work under a banner of UK-wide, but really was an English organisation that was just wandered backwards and forwards across the borders every now and then. So the foundation, once it got the funding, really concentrated on supporting the development of work in Wales, in Scotland and in Northern Ireland as much a priority as its work in England. And this paid real dividends because very early on in 2003, the Welsh Government went to consultation on their new strategy for an ageing population, and as part of this, there was only one named organisation in the whole of that document, and they specifically commissioned the Beth Johnson Foundation to work in partnership in Wales to develop intergenerational work. And on the back of this, the Beth Johnson Foundation went into partnership with the University of Glamorgan and established the Welsh Centre for Intergenerational Practice. Again, from the very beginning, while it was supported by the foundation, it was grounded in a Welsh organisation. And over a period of time, that work continued in Wales until in 2008, the foundation co-wrote with the Welsh Government what we believe is the first intergenerational strategy by a government in the whole of the world. It was a very significant step forward for us. Alongside this, we began to work in Scotland with University of Strathclyde and established what was called initially the Scottish Intergenerational Network. And this idea of being a member of SIN caused much good laughs and humour and things, but we moved on at some point. And so with Strathclyde, we were a really good partner because they'd already started doing some intergenerational work, particularly the summer schools, which often work with grandparents and grandchildren. And Leslie Hart, who was there, was a great advocate at the start of developing intergenerational work in Scotland. The initiative was developed, and we carried on working together and sharing ideas. In 2007, following national consultation, the Scottish Government published their strategy for All Our Futures, a strategy for an ageing population in Scotland. And there were 6 key action areas in there. One of these was actually about the development of intergenerational work across Scotland. The Scottish Government contacted Beth Johnson Foundation about the possibility of replicating the model that had been used in Wales, where we had the Welsh Centre for Intergenerational Practice. But in discussion, we felt that the debate around devolution had actually moved on quite considerably, and it would be inappropriate to have an English organisation leading on the development of a Scottish national initiative. So in the end, what Beth Johnson Foundation did was work with the Scottish Government on the establishment of a consortium of key national organisations in Scotland, which Beth Johnson provided some expert support to, but that consortium actually managed what was initially called the Scottish Centre for Intergenerational Practice, which was based at Strathclyde University, and with what was then called CSV, subsequently changed its name to Volunteering Matters, actually holding the funding and managing the funding. That group then came together and worked together for the next 4 years. There was significant funding, and the initial funding was £200,000 a year, which enabled the then Scottish Centre to develop national networks, do road shows, develop a whole wide range of resources, and hold an annual national conference. The initiative was reviewed, and after the end of the first 4 years, they Scottish Government re-tendered to look at new management arrangements, as a consequence of which the Scottish Mentoring Network and Beth Johnson Foundation together successfully tendered to take over the support initiative. But with the Beth Johnson Foundation, again, only providing an expert support role, not being the lead organisation, because by this stage the centre had a very strong Scottish identity. The other thing that happened is that whereas in England the Centre for Intergenerational Practice had become a well-known and well-respected brand, in Scotland people felt that it actually didn't quite capture the essence of what people were trying to do. And so Generations Working Together became the favoured and then eventually the new title. And Skip changed its name and became Generations Working Together Scotland. And it's under this name that it's continued to work ever since, with different avenues of funding.